Yo, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the newest edition of the Bronx Muchachos podcast, brought to you by 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Mark, and today we got a short crew with us. We got Danny.
What's good, everybody?
And we got friend of the pod, our brother from another mother, Mr. Paul Woodin from Prospects1500. Paul, what's going on?
Hey, good evening, guys.
All right, everyone, you guys know the drill. Like, subscribe, rate, review, do all that fun stuff. Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, all that good stuff, man. You know the drill. Also, don't forget to check out our merch or anything else that we got going on at Linktree, which is link.tree/Real Bronx Muchachos. Before we get started tonight, we want to give quick shout outs and the condolences to some people. So first off, to the greatest footballer ever, Pele, who passed away. Condolences to him and to his family. He was everyone knows the name. He was the top of the top when it comes to proper football. And speaking of football, we got Hamlin, who's recovering pretty well. So he's not out of the woods, but you know what? He wrote down to his doctors today asking with consciousness goes, "Oh, did we win today?" And his doctors turned around and said, "Yes, you won the game of life." So the fact that he's on the way to recovery is a great thing to hear. And of course, big shout outs to Garrett Cole having his second child. He's got daddy power now ×2. So it's a way to go, man. It's a way to go. But the first thing we're going to talk about, it's not Yankee related, but it's kind of rolls into the whole thing, which is, man, Devers, 11 years, $331 million. I honestly didn't see that one coming. I thought they were going to trade him, to be honest with you. I didn't think that they were going to re-sign him, even though they had to re-sign him. I didn't think they were going to do it because everything kept hearing was that they weren't coming close to 300 million. 300 was nowhere near. They were off by too much money, and then boom, they went he's a little shy of 31 million a year. So, Paul, what do you think about this?
No, I think it's a good deal for Boston. They got some young kids coming up. He's kind of going to be the veteran in the clubhouse. It also appeases to their fan base quite a bit. I mean, I know fans up here in Connecticut, they're still mad about Mookie Betts. So you have to appeal to your fan base a little bit. You lost Mookie Betts, you lost Xander Bogaerts. You got to appeal and make some of them happy. So that'll at least show something. I'm just looking at it like it's a good contract for them. And it's all about the kids at that point. You can make him the veteran in the clubhouse. They got a lot of good kids coming up for the middle infield. So it's a good deal all the way around. You appeal to your fan base. You got something there for a veteran presence. So, I mean, I think it's a good deal for them.
Yeah, I don't want to face Devers for the next 11 years, but it's cool. I'm glad Boston did what they had to do just for the sport of baseball. You want stars like Devers to get paid, and he got paid. So good for Devers. Sucks for the rest of the AL East, but the Red Sox are still going to suck. They've had one of the worst off seasons in recent memory. To let Bogaerts go after not getting anything for him, not getting anything for JD Martinez, not getting anything for Nate Eovaldi. Well, they might get a compensation pick because I think, or I'm not even sure if they get a compensation pick with Eovaldi. So
I think they only get it for Bogaerts. I think it's Bogaerts or maybe they get one for everyone, because I mean Bogaerts went to San Diego, then Eovaldi. I forget how much Eovaldi signed for though, because I think if he signed for under 50 million, then but I think he got more. But if he signed under 50 million, then they don't get any compensation for him.
He signed for like 37 million 2 years, 37 million, something like that.
Yeah, no, they don't get compensation for him.
Boston just is not going to be good again this year, even with Devers sticking around. So that sucks for baseball, because baseball's at its best when the Yankees and Red Sox are the premier players in the AL East. So hopefully one day we'll get to that point, but obviously we still want to beat them. So that sucks to see. I mean, it sucks to see them suck so bad. I'm glad for Devers to get that money though.
Yeah, no, good for him. Also, quick shout outs, Daniel Barry Sports Highlights. What's up, man? How you doing? And Dave, our boy Dave, good old Davey boy, part of the pod, he said he was shout out there going, we won't have to see him 19 times a year going forward because of the new alignment, but I mean it's still AL East, and he still gets up there, and he kind of hammers Cole whenever he gets around. So I mean, you still don't want to see him in those spots. But I look at it this way: he was going to be a free agent after this year, and lo and behold, the Yankees were going to have an opening at third base at the end of this year too. So I mean, it kind of was beginning to align. It would have been a nice little twist of the knife in the side of Boston, of the Red Sox, to go ahead and get their star guy who was crazy young and get him. They could get him for 10 years, and then boom. I mean, he would have been. The defense there is it's average, a little bit above average now. He did pretty well last year, but he's not a long-term solution at third base. What were you gonna say, Dan?
I just had this thought. It's kind of good that Devers stayed over there, because now we have a chance at Murakami from Japan, 25-year-old. Well, when he comes to the United States, he'll be 25, and he just broke the single season record for homers in Japan, and he's a beast. So
I think he's gonna switch. I think he's gonna go to first base for us.
Yeah,
but he said he wants to stay on West Coast, except for he goes he's intrigued by coming to the Yankees. So I mean, he knows how to play it up.
Mm-hmm.
I just think Devers turns into a DH at some point in that contract too, because he's hopefully he doesn't turn out like Pablo Sandoval and blow up and get huge, because that'll be interesting. He's got that body where he could do that.
Well, I mean, I'll say one thing, man. I mean, the reports out there that there's a possibility of openings at first base coming around. I mean, you already got Hosmer that went to the Cubs. And, they let him go. He's with the Cubs now. But I keep hearing that the Marlins are really, 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 really trying to get themselves Tristan Casas.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you're gonna go Tristan Casas, and then what? You got Blaze Jordan in their minor leagues to play first base? No, I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a good chance in a few years that he kind of does the Miggy Cabrera thing, where he just moves on over to first base.
Mm-hmm. And the only way I give up with Tristan Casas is if I get Yuri Perez or Eric Cabrera. That'll be it from the Marlins. If you're talking about anybody else, maybe a Trevor Rogers, but it'll be Trevor Rogers plus for a guy like Tristan Casas. But if they want to do that, hey, good riddance. I don't want to see Tristan Casas in this division either.
No, and it's good for like the Marlins, it's it'll help put cheeks in the seats basically, because Tristan Casas is a South Florida boy, so you get someone like him, you get like a Yandy Morales from the University of Miami, kind of put those two guys at the corners. I mean, you kind of get homegrown talent and homegrown guys that people down there have seen and know about to come in. I mean, that's but we're not a Marlins podcast, we're a Yankees podcast.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of, that whole third base thing and that, talking about that is open. I mean, Dave's telling us that we have an opportunity to sign Machado as long as he opts out after this year. But,
wow,
we have, there's people internally we can kind of go for as well, and I think that leads to what the Yankees' big signings the past couple days. They're not on the field, but off the field, which are really good, is bringing back into the fold, bringing back home Brian Sabean, who started his career with the Yankees and it's got player development written all over him. I mean, he was the head of scouting and player development back in the early 90s before he went out to San Francisco. And you can see the marks, his fingerprints all over the championship runs that they had there. And then we also brought in Omar Minaya, and he's the special assistant to the baseball operations, and he has had his fingers all over the Mets, especially in their scouting department. Did wonders with the Expos for a while, with the Mets for a good amount of time. I mean, he's a baseball lifer. I mean, let's just think of it this way. Paul knows this fact too, that all, with the exception of Spencer Jones, our best prospects are position prospects. They're in Double A and above. So we're coming to a logjam, especially with those guys, where we're gonna have to figure out who's staying and who's going. I mean, we all have our opinions. I mean, I've said it plenty of times what my opinions are. Danny, you too. I know Paul's opinions, but there's other guys that are out there. and specifically talking about guys like Everson Pereira, Trey Sweeney, Dunham. We got Lockridge out there too. I mean, even Josh Bro. I mean, the list can go on and on a little bit longer, but we got to find out if they're staying, they're going, if they're worthwhile, and if they're not going to be part of this team, if they're not going to change position, where they're going to go. So, swing it over to you guys. What's your thoughts about those two guys being brought back into the fold?
Well, I really love Sabean. I really love the fact that we get him back. He's had his hands in 2 championship runs. Like Mark was saying, that he was ahead of scouting for the Yankees back in the early 90s. I think it was from like 89 to 92 or 90 to 92. And that's right in the thick of Bernie Williams, Mariano, Andy Pettit. Well, Mariano and Andy kind of came a little bit later, but Bernie Williams, Sabean had a big impact on that and getting him into organization. Jorge Posada. So that's a real big part of our core. And then he did it again in San Francisco. So to have a guy of his stature kind of be, I don't know if it's going to be a right-hand man to Cashman, or if he's going to kind of, give him advice. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, that relationship. But to have that depth of knowledge, just being like a great baseball dude and a guy that's produced championships for 2 organizations, I'm here for it. We need different ideas. We need different voices. Cashman's been in an organization for like 26 years, right? Like, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculously long time for one person to be in one organization. Kind of need a different viewpoint, different lens to go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, Cashman's been with the organization longer. He and Sabean known each other since the 80s. They came up in the organization together. So I mean, he was a GM for 20 plus. He's been a GM for 20 plus years. Not to cut you off there, Danny, but that's how him and Sabean know each other, because Sabean was on Mad Dog and said, I've been talking to Cashman. He brought up the idea of me coming back. He was in. He goes, I was into it. Went to Hal. Hal signed off on it, and boom, he's over, and that's why he's over here. Cashman has a long history of bringing former GMs back over. I mean, we have Jim Henry, who was a longtime GM for the Cubs. He's a scout for us. Minaya, and we got Sabean. Also had Kevin Towers for a little while too, when his run with the Padres were done.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't mean to cut you off there, so keep on going.
No. But yeah, no. You hit the nose on, you hit the nail on the head there. Having a different lens is really going to help this team, I think. Just having the same person running this, they do the same thing. You get comfortable with doing the same thing. Let's shake things up. Let's have different perspectives, and hopefully that could lead to better results with player development, especially at our we have guys like Roger Arias coming up. Brandon Maya potentially could be in this organization soon. So the next wave of baby bombers is coming, and we need a guy like Brian Sabean or Minaya to kind of help usher in the guys that we have already in our front office and organization, give them a different perspective. So I'm looking forward to it. It can only be good things. I mean, this dude had his fingerprints on 4 and 3 on 7 championships. So I'm here for it.
I think I like the signings. I think Sabean gives us an opportunity to see Trey Sweeney, to see Oswald, to see if they are shortstop, to see if they are catcher. I think that's going to be a big thing. You kind of get to see the guys at their rightful positions and maybe move them off if you see something certain. But I also, and I talked to Mark about this earlier, I also think this is Brian Cashman, you're on check. I understand these are Brian Cashman hires. Doesn't mean that Hal has to fire them. They can go right into that GM spot. So I think Brian Cashman, you're on notice. You have 2 experienced general managers there. They may not want the general manager position, but they may. I mean, both guys very experienced. Both guys have won championships. Brian Cashman, you have nothing but win now. You have all the people here to do it. You have the players here. We spent money on the players. You spent money internally in the upper management, win now or you're done, because we have replacements. We have legit good replacements with contracts. I think Hal put him on notice.
I'll say we were talking about this before. It's a very fair point. I don't know if Sabean's going to want to take the GM job, but I think Minaya is always looking to get back into that spot. But I first think that, the Sabean and Minaya, they're gonna split it right down the middle. I think they're gonna do a lot of scouting. I think Minaya probably is down in the Dominican Republic right now, watching Brandon Maia.
But split it down the middle, co-GMs. That's fine. Both guys have a little less to do at that point.
Well, you see how that worked back in the 80s for the Lakers when you had the GM, you had the head coach for the offense, head coach for the defense. But no, I mean, listen, those two guys are big names, and they're big talent, and they got big personality, and they know what they're doing too. Because even with Minaya, I mean, he brought a Mets team to the World Series, and he brought them within games of making playoffs plenty of times too. So, I mean, you can't, he's not a bad choice to bring in, and with all the experience they have in scouting, I can only see good things that are going to happen. Especially now with a lot of the rule changes, and we're going to get into that later tonight. But the rule changes are going to have the scouting department is going to really need to really fine tune how these kids and how these players are going to be, because for such a long time now we've had a Gleyber Torres who's used to shifting, and there could be things that his deficiencies were covered up because you were able to have something else there, or a DJ LeMahieu who's now older. Now he doesn't have the range that he had before. Now we can see maybe something else can happen. And speaking of those positions, we're talking second base. Both those guys are second basemen. Let's jump into the shortstop position, because as of right now we have, unfortunately, the president of the Oswald Peraza fan club's not here, Mr. Dave, but you got Volpe and you got Peraza that got legitimate shots at making the team out the gate. Cashman straight called Volpe, goes, "You have a legit shot to make this team from spring training. So, do what you got to do." I think Peraza is the first man up on this job. As long as he comes in healthy, I don't think he's going to lose the job, because I think he's a better defender, and I think defense is going to be a premium. But let's throw us around the horn. Let's Paul first. One, I know I have a feeling we're all going to be in agreement on something. But if we're going to start the season with Volpe and Peraza up, what are their positions? And even if we talk Volpe first, what will be his best position?
Volpe plays second base. I think his arm isn't strong enough, and I think that having Peraza in his strong arm over at shortstop will improve your defense quite a bit. That's just me. I think third base, you go to DJ at that point, and hopefully, you can alternate DJ around a little bit. But I think he's the better third baseman over JD as well, or Josh Donaldson as well. I just think Volpe is the guy at second base. I don't see why not. And if he doesn't start off good, I just stick DJ at second base and stick Volpe at in the AAA. I mean, last year he struggled mightily out the gate, and he fixed himself midseason. So I think that's, can he get the swing on right away?
This is the biggest spring training in Anthony Volpe's life, because if he hits 450 in spring, what's keeping him off this roster, right? Let's see what Peraza does. I think he just has to do the bare minimum, do better than IKF. All right, do better than IKF in the spring, and don't make errors. Make the plays that are hit to you. Make the routine plays. Make the occasional highlight play, because he has the ability to do it. But I would love to see Peraza opening day at shortstop, and I really think Volpe, unless he hits that 450 or something ridiculous in spring, is going to start in AAA, because we still have Gleyber Torres on this roster. We still have IKF. We still have Donaldson. We still have DJ LeMahieu. So we kind of got a log jam right in the middle of the field right there. But Peraza I think it's important for this team to get that energy of a young kid. We saw what happened when Cabrera came up last year. To get that at the beginning of the year, as opposed to waiting until the dog days of summer to bring kids, put all that pressure on them. Bring up Peraza now, have him play short every day, give him the reins. And even if I'm Aaron Boone, I give him all the confidence in the world. Just be like, hey, man, you're my shortstop, right? Kind of like what Joe Torre did with Jeter. Hey, you're my shortstop. You're going to be out there every day. Like, even if you make an error, if you go 0 for 4, if you go 0 for 15, you're going to be my shortstop. So hopefully that conversation happens, or is already happening, or something to that effect, building his confidence. But having Peraza there, be the guy, is the way to go heading into 23.
No, I agree with both of you guys. I think Peraza, for the little bit, and I always said this. I always blame Boone for the last part of the year with Peraza, where they could, and I understand why Boone did what he did, and I understand why the front office did what they did, why they continued to play IKF, because you didn't want to possibly lose him in totality, like his mind being shot, like, oh, you guys, and the confidence was completely gone. I get it, but we had this conversation. Peraza should have been brought up earlier and let him ride, but I agree with you, Danny. Like, they should just say, job is yours, take it, run with it. Don't worry about the spring. Get yourself ready, get yourself fine tuned, and then boom, come out the gate. Let's rock and roll. I think Volpe will be up. Unless, like you said, unless he hits 450 with unless he pulls a Higgy spring training. Yeah, I think Volpe gets like a month down in AAA. I think so, and then during that time frame, that's when you'll have the ability to kind of trade a Glaber or an IKF if all those guys are still on the team, kind of start beginning to mix and match and make some deals and move people around. Or even worse comes to worse, what if Donaldson turns around and just craps the bed, can't hit his weight at that point, and 38-year-old, they just turn around and say, you know what, we're just going to cut you and be done with it, and then bring him up for that. So I mean, there's a lot of options to do that, but I think as long as if Volpe gets up before, I think, was it May 5th? I think on the flip side of the coin, the Yankees are still incentivized to do that, because then even if he finishes in what I think the new rules are, if he finishes in like the top 5, I think it is on Rookie of the Year voting, or top 3, yeah. If it's top 3 in the Rookie of the Year voting, I mean, then the Yankees are incentivized and they get additional draft picks and they get additional money towards everything. So I mean, I can only see it as a win-win, but as long as they have the right, the pieces moved out of the way.
I've been saying this. I've been comparing Volpe to Jose Ramirez. Just when Jose Ramirez first came up, power, speed, second baseman, but you see what he does at third. And I kind of, they're both on the shorter end, and they both got that power speed combination. So I really like Volpe at third. You don't have to have, you got to have the arm strength. And his arm strength for short is average. So maybe it'll be below average at third and above average at second. But I really like him at third. The athleticism, just the range and all that. I like it a lot at third. But second will probably be the most logical choice, and most likely what will happen. But if you're saying, if JD just, forget how to hit like he did last year, hey, man, you got a viable option between DJ and Volpe to kind of fill that void.
No, definitely right. So, Paul, what do you think? What do you think of something like that? You think? I know we've all. I know Danny's been the first one really banging the drum about Volpe moving to third base, but you think he can handle third, or is it kind of more possibly like more of a waste of his range at third base?
No, defense getting to the ball will be fine. I'm like Danny said, I'm a little afraid. Does he have that arm strength to get it across on a fast runner or something like that? I mean, that would be my concern. If I wanted to play that, I may consider moving Peraza over to third and leave Volpe at shortstop, because Peraza has the better arm of the two, and he's just as good defensively getting to the ball as Volpe. That's just something I'm throwing there, and then kind of just seeing what sticks. I think you see them all. I mean, you could even go crazy and put Cabrera at third base. He's got the arm. He's played there before. If you're desperate for somebody at third base, something happens to Donaldson, something happens where you need DJ LeMahieu kind of wandering around a little bit, stick Cabrera though there, and then hope left field kind of shakes out between Hicks and whoever else.
Well, it's funny you mentioned left field, because it brings us to another topic that we got going on, which is moving to our outfield prospects. Our top two outfield prospects are Jasson Dominguez and Spencer Jones, and they're both right now play center field. So let's swing it this way: who do you think is going to have the better? Who do you think one is going to have the better career, or who's going to get to the big leagues first between the two? So I'll swing it back around to Danny. Who do you think is getting the bigs first, Dominguez or Jones?
Well, this topic just gives me chills because I get excited about both players because the ceilings for both of them are just so high, and just like, I want to see both of them in the Bronx. But I think if Spencer Jones tears up high A, if he has another really good half a season at Double A, even with Dominguez already starting at Double A, I think Jones might be the first guy up. And he's older. He's had this SEC experience. He's already tore up Single A in Tampa, albeit in a really small sample size. Hit 344, 4 homers over like 40 games, something like that. But not even 40 games, 40 at-bats. So I would love to see him start at Hudson Valley for half the season, go to Double A, and then, hey, once you get to Double A, you know, you really don't have to play at Triple A. We saw that last year with Michael Harris. He's Rookie of the Year. Spencer Strider, the Braves are super aggressive with their prospects. I kind of envy the Braves in that because I wish the Yankees were a little bit more aggressive. I would love to see Spencer Jones in left field because he handled it athletically. If he could add lift to that swing, we're talking about a 40-homer dude. We're talking about, like, easy day, 40 homers. You might get 15 to 20 bags with the new rule changes, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But Spencer Jones is a special type of talent, and he's a left-handed Aaron Judge. And we've seen it. I saw him a lot watching Vandy games. The dude's power is real. So I think Spencer Jones is going to be the guy that's going to be playing left or center, depending on what year it is, because we still got Harrison Bader. We're still, platinum type of Gold Glove guy in center, and we'll see what happens in left. It's a stopgap, realistically. This year's a stopgap for left.
Well, don't forget Bader's a free agent after this year too.
Yep.
So I mean, you got two people. So all right, so let's throw this out there. 5 years down the line, who's got the better career? I'm going to swing all these poll questions over to Paul in a minute too, but I figure sitting over here with Danny.
I've literally been thinking about this all day. I've been going back and forth, right? We hear left-handed Aaron Judge, like I said, concerning Spencer Jones, but you hear names like Mike Trout, Bo Jackson. When it comes to Jasson Dominguez, he's younger. He may have a bigger impact on all facets of the game. He had 37 stolen bases in his first full year of professional ball. 120 games, 16 homers, 59 RBIs. The average is like 263. But 37 bags with the 16 homers, and the kid is 19. He's 3 years younger than his average competition. So I think we will all buy in on 16 homers, 260 average, and 30 bags for the big leagues this year from left field, because we didn't get that. So it's just he's gonna get better. By the time he's 21, those 16 homers might become 20, 25 homers. Those 30 bags might stay around the same number, but and he gets on base at a ridiculous clip. Ridiculous. His eye is really good. 72 walks in 120 games, which is really good for a 19-year-old. So that's going to get better. So, all right, I'm going to say this. Hopefully, I don't. Hopefully, he proves me right. I see like a Juan Soto type of impact for Jasson Dominguez. Initially, first coming up, I will love that. The on base skill, the ability to hit for power, and he's a switch hitter. Everybody, do yourselves a favor. Go after the show. Not right now. Pay attention to us. Stay focused. But after the show, go look up the Eastern League Championship game and look what Jasson Dominguez did in that game. All right, he's a stud. So I think Dominguez over time will have a better career than Spencer Jones initially.
All right, Paul, what do you think? Who do you think makes it to the bigs first between the two of them?
I'm gonna say J-Dom, only because he's got that experience already at AA. And I think another issue I'm gonna have here is this could be a Peraza Cabrera thing where the fan base needs a spark, the team needs a spark. I think J-Dom brings that spark bigger than Spencer Jones, only because the hype around J-Dom. It's a hype situation. Everybody loves him. Everybody knows him. Everybody's seen the highlights. Everybody's seen it. Like Danny just said, all you got to do is go watch the playoff game. It's there. Like, you've seen that. I'm going to use the word common, I guess. Most common baseball fans haven't seen the hype of Spencer Jones. They've seen the hype of J-Dom. So you're going to put butts in the seats, you're going to call Jasson Dominguez. But I discussed this with you, Mark. I think this is going to be like 2016 when Tyler Austin and Aaron Judge came up like the same day. I could see something where like a week apart, a week or 2 weeks apart, something where like somebody gets released, somebody struggles, somebody gets hurt. Aaron Hicks obviously gets hurt all the time. You got a couple guys that have potential to get hurt. And let's be honest. Let's be very honest. Can Aaron Judge stay healthy again? We know he's not going to, can he do that again? That's another outfield you got to worry about. Can he, he's not going to have that same production more than likely like he did this year. Is he going to stay healthy? Is Hicks going to stay healthy? You've got a lot of issues and question marks of health in the outfield. Even Harrison Bader, he goes really hard. There's a chance he gets hurt. He goes hard all the time. So, like, my thing is, I think this could be like there's J-Dom. 2 weeks later, here's Spencer Jones. So I think they're really close. As far as center field, I think Spencer Jones is the guy for that. I think J-Dom continues to grow, to be very honest with you. Got a big frame already, big stocky frame. Continues to grow. That speed's going to go away a little bit. He's probably a better corner guy because of that arm. Long term, I'm going to say J-Dom as well. I think that's the way to go. I think he's just got all the tools at once. They'll all just click, and like you're going to have a monster guy. Where Spencer Jones, he may be a little bit all overboard on all the tools. So That's my theory on that.
All right. I was excited when Danny and I both were excited when we drafted Spencer Jones, like crazy excited. Like we were talking the entire time when the draft was happening. We'd see everyone kind of come up like, oh, everyone, the mock drafts like, oh, they're going to pick this person, that person. And every time I kept saying, going, dude, 6'7" out of Vandy. I said, you can't go wrong with Vanderbilt, man. And mind you, that this past year was the first year that Spencer Jones was fully healthy from a Tommy John, and that was when he was a pitcher in high school. He had Tommy John surgery. So I mean, now you're catching him, putting all that behind him. Now he's going full tilt. He tore up FCL, tore up low A ball. I mean, I think it was expected that he was going to do both. Just coming from the SEC. I keep reading all these clips that everything that down instructional leagues, like everything that they wanted him to do, he's picked up and then exceeded all their expectations, with the exception of he hasn't put more loft into his swing like Danny was talking about before, but it's the line drives. Excuse me. And one of the things about Spencer Jones also was that he had some of the hardest hit baseballs in college last year. I mean, I think they were BB core bats, but I think he was having exit. Yeah, I think one of his exit velocities was 123 miles an hour off the bat. I mean, that's just crazy. So I mean, big dude is hitting the ball hard. I think they're going. I would love to see them both play in. I think they're both going to hit AAA. I think they'll both be in AAA together, him and the Martian. But I kind of going down the road with you guys because I think because Dominguez has done it and he did it at a high level already in AA. I think he gets the bump. He could get the bump before Jones, but I think Jones is going to be the center fielder of the future when the two of them make it up there. I think Jones will be the center fielder. Dominguez goes left, and obviously right field is going to be Judge for the next minimum 5 years. As long as Stanton's on the team, Judge is going to be the right fielder. But then comes the fun part, which is 5 years down the line, who's going to have the better career? And that's just, the intangible be. You're talking about Dominguez and Jones, who are, and even for that matter, you got Volpe. They all could be middle rotation. I mean, just with Judge sits there, you could have a starting lineup of Peraza leading off, Judge, then you got Dominguez, then Jones, then Stanton for a little bit, then Volpe. I mean, you can just play around with it. That's all crazy. I mean, but I think.
Can I toss out something real wild?
Jones, I think he might have the better career.
Let me toss out something real wild. Just a thought here. Everson Pereira, he's on the 40 man. That could be your call up before J. Dom and Spencer Jones, because you don't got to waste a 40-man spot on him. He's already there. That's a quick, easy transaction.
Yeah, but I don't think it is
whatever.
I don't think he gets called up first though. I think that I'm thinking
I'm talking like if you got a guy for 2 weeks, guys, 2 weeks out, there's your 40-man guy. Instead of having to call up those guys and deal with that and send them back, this doesn't turn into Estevan Florial where they keep jerking them around up and down. For that matter, might as well throw Elijah Dunham up there. Elijah Dunham's on the 40-man roster too, and he's one of those he's a dirty jersey kind of guy, which means are we looking at center? We're looking at corner though too. Pereira's playing center.
I was thinking more along the lines of just the two Dominguez and Jones, because I think down the line I don't think Pereira stays at center field. If we're talking
he's a team. To be honest,
that?
I don't think he stays with the team. To be quite honest, I think he's a good trade candidate.
I do too, and that's why I think Sabean and Manaea are going to be looking hard at him to see what his value is going to truly be. So, but
the three biggest trade chips position player wise for the Yankees: Trey Sweeney, Austin Wells, and Everson Pereira. Like those three dudes are going to get us somebody down the road. And I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe it's a Brian Reynolds. Who knows? Nobody knows at this point. Nobody knows what type of conversations Brian Cashman's had with other clubs. But I could almost guarantee that if we make a big trade, one of those three dudes are going to be a part of it, especially if they have big years at AA and AAA. Because Pereira, Wells, they're both knocking on the door at AAA. They're right there. They spent a full season almost at AA already. So it'll be interesting to see.
Wells is a different animal all to himself, just because he's playing catcher. He does, the arm strength is not there. I mean, he could be a serviceable backup catcher, but the bat plays, man. If the bat plays, time to move him off there. Have him play a little bit of first base. Have him play. I think this year they're going to rotate him around. They're going to play him short catcher, first base, and left field. Kind of just picking him around and let him move around so he can keep that bat in the lineup, because the bat's legit. The bat's MLB ready. It's just where you going to stick him. If worse comes to worse, you might as well just stick him at first base. Let Rizzo. Rizzo's got minimum 2 years on this deal, and then kind of okay. Let's just make the transition.
Wells will be ready by then, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
I think 2 years might be pushing
too much,
honestly.
No. I think Wells will be ready at some point. I think Wells could be ready at some point this year.
100%.
But it's fun to think about all these kids that we have, because we do have some quality. Like I said, the quality of players that we have coming up is legit. I think. Well, here's a side note, Paul. Let me ask you this: if we take these four guys versus these first four guys, you got Sanchez, Torres, Andujar, and Judge versus Dominguez, Peraza, Volpe, Jones. Which 4 would you take? And I mean, these are coming in rookies, not what the careers are and what the careers became, but when they were coming up.
Boy. So, I think that's a question for later in the year, to be honest with you. I think we all need to see a little more out of those current 4 guys. And I think you kind of, at that point when they're all coming up, the Gary Sanchez's and Aaron Judges, you kind of knew what you had. Like, you don't know for a fact if Austin Wells is staying at catcher. You knew at that point Gary Sanchez was your catcher. Like, here we are discussing Austin Wells moving off, where Gary Sanchez was already there. And, like, it's just very iffy. Like, what are you going to do with him? So I think in this case, if we're talking that, it's going to be the Gary Sanchez, Aaron Judge thing, because you knew what you have. You still don't know what you have in Austin Wells altogether. You still don't know what you have in a couple of these guys.
Well, we didn't know that Miggy was going to – we all knew Miggy sucked as a third baseman. So if you had Miggy, Gary, I forgot I think it was Torres and Judge, right? Were the 4 dudes, right? We Torres was a dude that, hey, maybe he's a shortstop, maybe he's a second baseman. We don't really know, but he kind of settled into second base, and we see what Judge is now. But Miggy hasn't turned into much of anything. And I think prospect-wise, but Gleyber was up there, Judge was up there, and Gary was up there. Comparatively, I think Gary Sanchez was a better prospect than Austin Wells.
Right.
I'd probably take Volpe over Gleyber coming up, like with the hype, because Gleyber was never that number 5 prospect in all of baseball, right? He was maybe top 10, top 20. Peraza, also big impact dude, and Spencer Jones. Oh man, if he has a really big year, he could be flying up these boards. And Judge always had the strikeout thing. Everyone always knocked him for being too big and striking out and all that, because he didn't have a lot of power in the minor leagues. The power came as he got to the big leagues. So prospect-wise, Aaron Judge was never like – he was a fringe dude. He was compared to like Richie Sexton, who was like an all-star once, or a Dave Kingman. Those are the comparisons for Aaron Judge. And so prospect-wise, I'll take this crop right now because there's a little bit higher upside with those guys currently.
I agree with you on that. I like the crop that the prospect, when we're talking strictly as prospects, like you said, Judge had, he was a BP god. Like he could hit the tower lightning. He hit the towers and hit the lights in batting practice. But come game time, I mean, I think he hit 12 home runs was the most he had in 1 year. I mean, he wasn't anything to talk about. They're just waiting for him to figure it out. Gary Sanchez, everyone knew the talent was there, just didn't know if he could put it together. Miggy had the bat, you don't know where he's going to play. Gleyber, I think, was the most highly rated prospect out of all of them, and he was the one, and we got him from the Cubs. So, I mean, there was those kind of guys. I like the fact that all these guys that we have now, Dominguez, Wells, Jones, Peraza, Volpe, they're all drafted or signed internationally by the Yankees. I think that down the line too, I think if you want to go bigger crops of them, I think having Roderick Arias and then getting Brandon Mayer, I mean, it's 10 days out for that signing, but I don't see any changes happening. I still think that unless something drastically happens, Brandon Mayer is going to be a Yankee on January 15th. So I mean, I think all those guys have really high ceilings, and there's a chance that they can be a lot better. There's a bit of injuries, off to the side. I think all these guys can be a lot better than where Judge was, where all these other guys were. And I think every single one of those, like even Greg Bird is in that category, fell short injury wise. Tyler Austin, had really a good 6 months, 6 weeks, maybe half a year, and then that's been about it. So I think all those guys fell short. While these new kids are coming up and they're gonna fulfill the promise that that the baby bombers that we all talked about from the mid teens didn't really fulfill for us.
And we could add Clint Frazier to that, although he's like labor, acquiring him via trade for Andrew Miller. But, what did Brian Cashman say about him? He has legendary bat speed, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, he had that pressure on him, Clint Frazier or Jackson Frazier, whatever you want to call him now. He had that pressure on him in New York, and he didn't do it. He did not do it. Obviously, the concussions didn't help him, but he had moments, that walkout homer against Milwaukee at the stadium, which was probably like the biggest highlight for him. But everything else is just a mixed bag, and now he's a quadruple A player for the Cubs, and he can't stick it in the big leagues. And unfortunately, a lot of that has to do with concussions, but hopefully,
Justice Sheffield was the same way, man. I mean, Justice Sheffield. Yeah. Yankees had multiple times that they should have called him up. They're like, no, he's not there. Yeah.
Let's just hope this doesn't turn into like Mason Williams, Slade Heathcott, J.R. Murphy. Let's hope that doesn't happen. All right, that's our
Dante Bichette Jr.
Yeah, Eric, what was it named? Gigolo. As long as it doesn't turn into that, we'll be all right. Jagalo, yeah. As long as it doesn't turn into that, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
man.
But even like a guy like Jorge Mateo, he's okay now, but look how many years and years it took him to do this.
Yeah,
Mateo was kind of was on the same track that Gary Sanchez was. I mean, immature players in the minors,
but it took him 5-6 years to do anything in the big leagues.
Yeah, but
5 Yankee prospect at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was the top guy, but his big thing was that he was all speed. You know what I mean? He was his thing was he was all speed, and then the minute that they brought Glaber in there, they started moving around, going, okay, well we'll take Mateo, we'll put you at second base, we'll put you at center field, we'll find a spot for you. Glaber's the guy we're investing in at shortstop. And
I could be wrong, but I think it was like 2016. They actually had Mateo ranked over Judge in that year. I believe it was 2016.
Yeah, he was their number 3. Mateo was the number 3.
I think he was number 1. He was number 1 at one point. He was the Yankees' number 1 prospect at one point.
I think it was 2016 that they had MLB.
Judge was never. Judge wasn't. I think what was it? I think Judge was really high after Gary Sanchez was after he graduated, but Judge was never like the top prospect for the Yankees. I think so. Everything that came about for him. I mean, credit to him is a lot of hard work, a lot of things that he did. So, but
and 2016 is only 6-7 years ago now. Jeez,
crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy to think about, right?
It's wild.
I'm looking it up right now. The 2016 top prospects, the top 20.
Check MLB.com.
Yeah, MLB.com's got.
This is according to SB Nation. I'm going off of SB Nation right now. Gary Sanchez was number 1, according to SB Nation. Mateo number 2, Judge was number 3, James Caprillion 4, Domingo Acevedo 5.
Oh, Domingo Acevedo.
Rob Refsnyder was number 6.
Man, Acevedo finally made it. To the bigs. He did. It took him a long time, but he did it.
Wilkerman Garcia number 7.
Wow,
I was high on that guy. Dustin Fowler.
He wasn't even supposed to be. He wasn't even supposed to be the better of the Garcias. Dermis was supposed to be the better one.
Well, at least Dermis made it to the bigs. Dermis, is doing his thing in Oakland. Yeah, through Acevedo. Yeah. Kyle Holder, number 9.
Oh, all that defense with no bat.
Yeah. Ian Clarkin, number 10.
Yeah.
And let me look. Tyler Wade was 12. Hoyjun Park was still. Miggy and Duhar 19, and Luis Torrens rounded out the top 20, and then Montgomery was an honorable mention. So that's crazy.
So according to the MLB pipeline, Mateo was number 1. This is 2016. Mateo was number 1. They had Judge at number 2, Sanchez number 3. Because at that point, I think Gary had a lot of the prospect fatigue going for him.
Mm-hmm.
Caprillion was 4, Wilkerman 5, Dustin Fowler 6, Acevedo 7, Tyler Wade, good old Tyler Wade, coming in number 8, Rob Refsnyder number 9, Ian Clarkin, number 10.
Ugh.
Then they had number 11 is Jacob Lindegren. That was a name I remember. He was supposed to be doing something that we were looking forward towards.
Yeah.
Luis Torrens. I mean, man, I can never forgive what San Diego did to that kid. He was it really was. Ben Gamble 13, Hoyt Park
5 situation. It's a big part of it.
Which one? What was that?
For Torrens, it's a big issue. Like with the rule, that's a big issue with the Rule 5. You could just get a guy and stick him on the bench for the whole season if you're a crappy team.
Yeah, and he never got the development that because they paid him the minimum.
Right.
What they did to him. Brady Lale, Jordan Montgomery was number 20. Good old Chance Adams.
Chance Adams.
There's another one.
Pazos, Brian Mitchell.
James Pazos was all right. He had a pretty good career.
Yeah,
they did.
It was all right.
Leonardo Molina. I remember Leonardo Molina was supposed to be a big international prospect. But I think for him was it him or Rafael or was it Rafael De Paula? I think slid into second base and
yeah.
De Paula.
Yeah.
Yeah, but didn't one of them slide into second base and just tear up everything in the ankle? I think one of them had a nasty injury and just kind of ended everything.
Now we're taking a bit of a deep dive there from a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, we're going deep dive in prospect time.
Yeah, but this is fun to talk about because it just shows you that prospects are suspects. Like these are dudes that we were all excited about as Yankee fans.
Molina in 2017 with that leg.
It's 2017.
2017 right. Molina with the leg.
And we're all thinking, oh, hey, this is the new Yankees core. And 2016 was the year that we sold the farm. Well, we sold Miller, we sold Chapman, and then we kind of replenished everything. And then 17 became like this magical year for us. But going into it, like we could say that our farm wasn't really all that good. With Aaron Judge being not really Aaron Judge yet, and Jorge Mateo being the class of our prospects.
Well, he had 80 stolen bases that year, something like that.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Every time you turn around, it was on base, flying around somewhere.
Yeah,
and 50 errors. Then he had
he was wild at
errors one year.
Oh,
that's why they
so
did what they did to him. Just made him a utility player at this point.
Yeah.
Well, he was one of the best defensive shortstops this year for Baltimore. He had a 2.4 defensive WAR. So that was top 10 in all the big leagues.
Crazy.
So good for him, man. He turned his career around. I mean, he still hit 220 or something like that, even if that. But he's a big leaguer, so good for him.
Yeah. I mean, listen. I mean, he had to travel around. I mean, he got traded over to Oakland. I think Oakland traded him down to San Diego, and then he came back to the East Coast from there. So I mean, sometimes it takes some of these guys a little while to get their footing. I mean, like you said, prospects are always suspect, but I mean, you get jerked around a lot in the different places, different systems. I mean, you never know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But
I still think this group of guys is going to have the biggest impact, even with all that being said, because the tools are there. Like you see it. It's not like wishy-washy stuff. It's like legitimate stuff that is going to translate, and the mentalities are there. Like we're not having conversations about Volpe's immaturity. We're not having conversations about how Peraza can't handle the big leagues. Like we're not having, Cabrera is a dude. He has that confidence. Spencer Jones, same type of guy. But when it came to Gary and when it came to Jorge Mateo, we're still questioning them as men, and we're not having those same type of conversations with these guys. So I think the maturity level is going to only benefit this crop of prospects, because it's hard. Baseball's a hard game. You need to be a man about this stuff.
No, you're 100% right, and I think even going forward, I think even the next wave that it's going to be coming up, the younger I mean, it's funny enough we're saying younger guys when we're talking about 22, 21-year-olds. Dominguez is turning 20 next month. You know what I'm saying? Like it, but I'm like the next crop that are all teenagers right now. The Arises, the Maellas, and everyone's coming in the future too. I mean, those guys are even coming up, and they're supposed to be all highly touted as well. So I mean, there's just it's going to be nice waves of prospects and nice waves of talent coming through the system. But all that doesn't mean anything unless it's produced on the field. And then speaking of on the field stuff, this year we got all the new rule changes. So, Paul, out of all the new rule changes, what are you the most excited to see?
It's going to be the shift. Going to see the left-handers get on base quite a bit more. And hopefully even out the playing field quite a bit. You're going to have a lot of these lefties that are batting 230, now bat 270. I mean, off topic of the Yankees, imagine David Ortiz without the shift. Dude would have been ridiculous. And I mean, that list goes on. Imagine Jasson Giambi. Imagine left-handers without the shift. It would, just to make it more fair, it's going to be ridiculous. The left-hand bat now becomes more important. A switch hitter now becomes more important.
I can't wait for the stolen base to be back. Like, that was so, like, growing up, that was a big part of baseball, and I'm so excited to see that come back with the bigger bases, the limited throw, pick-off attempts to first. So I want to see, like, some big-time numbers when it comes to stolen bases. I want to see Trey Turner steal 120 bags. I want to see, like, these dudes do something outrageous. I want to see Glaber steal 30 bags and hit 30 homers. Like I want to see that come back to baseball because it just makes things so much more exciting. Like, you don't know if this guy's going to steal. You don't know. You got to do the appropriate amount of pickoff attempts. So the stolen base is back in baseball, and I'm here for it.
I like both of you were saying. I mean, not just Paul, not just for the lefties, but now all the shifts were coming against the right-handers too. I mean, then you'd have because the game then shifted away from left-handed bats, became more right-handed. Now you had three infielders on the right-hand side. The only thing I'm very intrigued to see is if someone, and I think like the Rays will be the first team to do this, which you'll take when the lefty comes up, take the left fielder and bring the left fielder over to playing shallow right field or something like that, because that's not outlawed. So I'm waiting for a team to truly do something like that. But I'm the bases. I'm really intrigued about the bases this year. I'm intrigued, like the bigger bases, how that's going to play out. It's going to be helpful with the stolen bases, like you said. It's going to be helpful. Less injuries, and even all that, like it's supposed to be the bases are changed too. It's tackier. Like a couple of years ago, Bryce Harper got hyperextended his knee running hard down first base on a wet surface, and those kind of things should stop. So I think having those 2 extra inches will entice everyone to steal more, but also making those routine plays, it's gonna those bang bang plays are gonna be even quicker now too, because now a shortstop, now a third baseman, he doesn't have to make that throw a little further. Those balls in the dirt might not be in the dirt as much anymore because now the first baseman can pick them easier. So it should make more of a cleaner game too. So I think I'm excited. That's what I'm excited for. I'm excited for one should be less injuries because bigger bases. I mean, sliding into the bags, you're not going to have any of those problems. But just true like out and out plays, like see everything for what it's worth.
I have a random question. Do baseballs go back to the way it was back in like 2019 when it was juice balls? Because offense is going to be out of this world this year. And I'm curious to see if they go back to those baseballs and make it even more offensive.
Well, I mean, it was proven last year that there was 3 different baseballs being used last year. Depended on what the team was, basically. Depending on who the matchup was, what the matchup was. If it was more a pitching matchup, then you had the dead balls. If it was more they wanted the hitting to go, I mean, then they had the juice balls out there.
I think they need to go back to the juice balls only because you're losing a lot of younger fans. Younger fans want to see offense. Younger fans want to see the home run, the steal, like Danny said. Younger fans want to see action. They don't want to see a 12 strikeout game. It's sitting there like, all right, that guy went down. All right. Even for the older generation like us guys, I want to see some action. Give me something. Give me some guys running around. Give me the double. Give me the home run. Give me like, all right, there's a good chance in the bottom of the ninth he's hitting a home run here, even if he's not a home run hitter with that juice ball.
How frustrating was that 18-inning game between the Astros and the Mariners? It was just like, yo, bro, like, come on.
But how many pop flies went to the outfield, deep in the outfield, that end up home runs if you have a juice ball? If you have a juiced ball, a lot of those like deep fly balls turn into home runs, and you don't have.
Judge is hitting 70 this year with juice balls.
With a juice ball.
Mark it here first. Mark it here first. He's saying 70.
Called it.
No, you're gonna go bigger.
Caveat asterisk juice ball.
Yeah,
juice ball. With juice balls, he's beating Barry Bonds' record.
Oh,
he's going 70.
He's
He's going 70 over 73.
Oh boy,
he might with juice balls, bro. Anything can happen.
Come on now, I want definitive. I want something definitive here.
Ron, Danny, put it down. Put an asterisk.
Yeah, sure, right. It's not gonna happen, but sure. If there's juice balls, Aaron Judge is gonna break the all-time home run record. All right, single season home run record.
We call it right here. First. We're gonna play it back in September, right on the Twitter. Danny called
after
it.
Judge hits 25 homers. Let me not jinx it. Let's knock on wood. Knock on wood.
All right. I think that's gonna do it for us tonight. Paul, tell everyone where they can find you at, man.
It's gonna be Paul Woodin and the number 1 on Twitter. I'm also on Prospects1500. We got our nice article coming out. My Yankees top 50 coming out for prospects. Everybody's is actually coming out this month. Give that a shot. Everybody's coming out with their top 50 prospects, so it'd be something to read, something to look at for everybody.
Give us a little insight. Something. Give us a hot take that you have coming out from the top 50.
Canard Delgado ends up a top 5 prospect by the end of the year, and bottom 100 prospect by the end of the next year.
Okay, you heard it here first too.
There it is. There's my hot take. I've seen the Jose Altuve comps. I'm all in for it. Let's bring it. It's a little early, but the Jose Altuve comps work.
Yeah, he had a great FSL season. So.
Dude's got the speed in his little frame. He's got some power. Gain a little bit of power. Keep that speed. There it is. That's my one. He is in the top 15 now. I'm gonna have him in the top 5 by the end of the year.
Ooh, I like that.
There you go.
Let's hope so. I would love to have an answer to Jose Altuve. A Yankee Jose Altuve without the buzzer, right? Without any sign cheating or anything like that. I would love that.
I just want to mention one more guy, just for giggles. Me and Mark were talking about this. Agustin Ramirez, same type of thing. Catcher, took a couple of years to get where he needs to go. Got a little bit of power going on. I can see him shooting up quite a bit of rankings. I saw a lot of places that have him like low 30s into the 40s. That's the same thing with me. Another guy I'm rocking. I
told you, Paul. Paul and I were talking about this. So I said to him, I think I'm changing gears. I'm kind of, as much as I like Antonio Gomez, I'm switching over to Agustin Ramirez. I think he might be the catcher of the future for the Yankees.
I don't know if you guys touched on it in another podcast previously, the Lucas Licky trade. Also, let's throw in Indigo Diaz. He could end up in the bullpen by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys touched on that last time, but that's another guy that keep watching.
We haven't yet, but big time fastball. He could get up to 97. Yep. He stays around 93, but
the slider's real. He attacks.
I'll let our viewers read your top 50 prospects. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but he is a very interesting guy to look at.
Yes, like I said, I think he ends up in the bullpen by the end of the year.
Hot takes all around.
There you go. There's my 3 hot takes for the night, fellas.
All right, perfect. All right, so that's gonna wrap it up for us tonight. I want to thank everyone all over the place for listening to us. as Dave likes to let me know about certain places like Colombia, Ecuador, and Bermuda. Those guys have been listen to us as well. Thank you all very much. Don't forget, check out our link.tree/Real Bronx Muchachos, getting gear, getting any deals that we got going on. Check us out there. For Paul, Danny, this is Mark. Bronx Muchachos out.